Hi guys, Samantha from JSMA Tutorials here, and today we are going to be making a scrap kaleidoscope. So I've got various groups of scrap here from different tutorials. This was a Instagram tutorial that I did quite a while back. I'll try to include the links to these videos in the description below if you're interested, but this was an Instagram video. This was a Patreon video where we made a translucent maple leaf cane, and this was a YouTube video. This was a inspiration video where we'd made a maple leaf bowl. But you basically want to grab a collection of scraps that are going to match well with one another. Okay, and so with these scraps, this one I'm going to leave as is. These two I'm going to position, actually you can't see them, like so. And then with this one I'm just going to cut that in half, and I'm going to have that there and that there. Now this one, there's a little too much clay there, so I'm just going to take off a bit of that. You can put that to the side and use it later on. But you want them roughly to be the same size. They don't have to be exactly the same size. Then all you're going to do is, preferably you want to have them in properly solid pieces of clay. So I would advise taking each and rolling it like so. Okay, and then you're going to form it like so, just into a rough square like that. And then you're going to repeat the same with all the others. Roll it together so that it is stuck together well, form it into a rough square, and then butter up against the last one that you rolled. And the squares don't have to be exact, you just want a generally square shaped lump of clay. Okay, there we go. So they're all roughly the same size now. Then we're just going to take that, each one, and we're then going to roll it out like so. Try to keep the sides the same thickness, and you're just stretching it out. And you want to basically run that through the thickest setting of your pasta machine. And you're just going to repeat this process with all of them, so you have them all in nice long strips. Okay, then take the smallest one of the bunch and then just use that to roughly trim out the others, and any leftover clay that you have, just pop them back with your scraps and they can be used later. But you want all the strips to be roughly the same size. Here we go. Then take those and lay them right up against one another like so. So they're touching. There you go. And just do that with all of them. And this does not have to be precise. It might look like I'm trying to be precise here. I'm really not. You don't have to worry about it too much. This is a very go easy technique. Okay, there we go. And once you've got them all pretty much touching, then just trim up the ends, because there are going to be ends. Okay. Then I'm going to cut them into strips, all about the same size. Like so. There we go. And just take those and put those to the side. Okay. Then I want you to slightly overlap them. Like so. Bring over the next one and do the opposite. Well, do basically the same thing. You want them to line up. And once I finish here, you'll be able to see exactly what I mean by overlapping and such. Just pop them down like so. Give them a good squish every once in a while to stick them back down again. And just continue until you have used up all of your strips. Okay, and you should be able to see what I did right there. So the next step is just going to be to press down on that firmly, getting it all squished up together. And I'm mostly focusing on the points where they overlapped to get those squished down. And I'm also tapping on the top so that they don't swoosh out, and instead it just lengthens this. Okay, then I'll just give it a final press just to get everything all nicely evened up. Okay. And notice how I'm pressing on the sides as well, just so that we can get a nice uniform shape. Especially since we're going to want to reduce this now. So I'll be pressing on the sides while holding these edges and pressing inwards to get this down into the right shape, and so that we can start reducing it, because this we want to cut into roughly 6 shapes. 6 or 8, one of those. But just continue pressing and reducing. You can bring your roller in. I find that I have a little more control with my hands, but you can of course use your roller. And just continue stretching this out. Now if you don't want to have to reduce something this thin, then just make your strips that you use to stack wider. And I'm just going to be pulling on those edges, pressing in, and every once in a while just trying to keep it so that we have as little waste as possible. Okay, now I'm just going to chop the end. You can see there how that looks. There we go. And I'm actually going to cut this in half so that I can get a more square-like shape. And I actually quite like it how it looks now. If you didn't want to create a kaleidoscope, you could actually use it exactly like this. I'm actually half debating on doing that. I think by making a kaleidoscope I might actually end up losing a lot of what I like about this. Let me think about it while I press this together. Okay. And so I've decided to keep it like this. I just really like this design a lot, and I don't want to lose it by making it into a kaleidoscope. Okay, I have already done 2 videos on a scrap kaleidoscope, so I'll provide that in the links below. If it's not there, please do remind me in the comments. I have a habit of forgetting these links that I mention in the video by the time I get around to editing. So if it's not there, please do remind me and I will pop it in. But yeah, I have already done a few videos in regards to scrap kaleidoscopes, so I thought might as well do something different if I like it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this into strips that are about the same thickness as the thickest setting of my pasta machine. Okay, the first one's usually a dud when you cut it. There we go, pop that to the side. Then I'm going to take this and I am going to mirror it. Like so. Tap those two together. I'm going to bring over a piece of paper before I get too far into that. Lift them up, pop them onto that piece of paper. And then I'm just going to burnish thoroughly, getting these pieces to stick together. And now if you end up with smudges, don't worry at this point, because we are going to give these a thorough sand so that they because we're making earrings, we're going to give them a thorough sand when we're done, and that will clear up any fuzziness that may have been caused during the burnishing process. But we're just sticking those together, flattening it out and getting it nice and even. And there you can see it did get a little blurry. Then I'm going to bring over my cutter to just check that it fits. And this is my third largest microfill cutter. There will be a link to that in the description below. It's part of the large set. Okay. And that should work. Then I'm just going to pop this here, and I'm going to bring this up close so that I can see what I'm doing. Still somewhat see what I'm doing there, but okay, just lining it up and then cutting. Get rid of those scrappy pieces. You should be able to lift that straight up. If not, you can always just use a blade to shimmy it up. There we go. Then just run your finger down the side just to get rid of any fuzzies that may be there. And try to keep this clean because we want this to be a double-sided piece. Then I've got a piece of gold here that was run out to about the same thickness as my cane slices. The cane slices are a little thicker than this, but that's okay. Just going to burnish the gold so that it's stuck down. I'm going to bring over the same cutter that I used to cut out my piece. Cut that out of the gold. Give it a quick burnish back down. Bring over my other piece. And slot that into place. And it should fall pretty much into place. Okay, bring over your paper again and then burnish again. And don't burnish, you want to burnish parallel to the long side of the shape. And that's just going to provide the least amount of distortion. And it also might provide a little bit of a dome, because I can feel there's a little bit of a dome forming here. Which is fine. You want to burnish these two sides. You don't need to worry about the top because that's going to get cut off. You just mostly want to be worrying about the sides. Okay, and that's almost burnished in. Just a little more, and then we'll be able to cut out our shape. Okay. There we go. That should work. Then I have got, oh gosh, what shape is this? This is my long barrel cutters. And I'm just going to pop that to position. Again, I have to bring it over here so that I can see what I'm doing. So just bear with me for one moment while I get that lined up. Okay. Press down. And cut it out, and you'll end up with a really nice piece. There we go. Okay. And there we go. So it looked quite nice. And now the nice thing about this also is if I flip it over, you can see that we have a double side on each of these pieces. Just get this one up as well. There we go, you can see double-sided. Now it does need to be cleaned up, and that's where the sanding is going to come in, but I want to bake these for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature first, and I'm going to be baking them on the piece of paper so that the backs end up with a nice matte finish as well, and that will just make sanding a lot easier. But yeah, I'm quite happy with how these turned out. I prefer it to the kaleidoscope. I find the kaleidoscope shape a little difficult to work with, so a rectangle cane is just something that I find much easier to work with. So if you wanted to turn it into a kaleidoscope, by all means go ahead and do that, but I do quite like how this turned out. Okay, and here they are out of the oven. Now I have given them a sand from a 400 up to a 1200 grit, so they have a nice clean matte finish. Sides are nice and smooth, and just everything has been nicely tidied up. And you can see how these are double-sided because we didn't put a backing on. And I'm not sure if we're going to be able to catch this. Let me try my best. But these are translucent, and so you can see through the back. I don't think I'll be able to catch it on here, but this part over here is completely translucent. I'm not sure if you can see that there. Yeah, but you can see there, if I pass my finger through there, that is translucent. So that adds a really nice pizzazz to the piece. So the next step is going to be buffing, but before I do that, I do want to drill these because I really don't like buffing and then drilling, because I find that I tend to get fingerprints all over it because I like to use Renaissance wax, and the Renaissance wax takes a little while to dry, and so it's best not to be handling the piece too much, especially directly with your fingertips, while the wax is drying. And so I'm going to drill these first, which is a little handsy, and then of course we can assemble them straight after we have buffed them, but I did want to drill them first. It's very easy. I just use a pin drill. The nice thing about this is it means that there is no distortion. It's a really quick, clean hole. And yeah, I highly recommend drilling after baking, not before baking. Unless you're using a cutter to create your hole, then it works quite well. Okay, there we go, all cleaned up. Now we are ready to buff them. Okay, and I like to use Renaissance wax. It just adds a little bit more of a shine to it. It is not necessary because we are not sealing anything in the clay. This just gives it an extra shine, but the buffing wheel will do a really good job even without the wax. So if you don't have it, you do not need to worry about getting it. It is not necessary. If you want a much higher shine, the easiest way to get that is to simply use a higher grit of sandpaper. Okay, and then I'm just going to, once I've got a general layer over, I'll just rub it over the piece so we've got a general distribution. Also, now that brings it to my attention, these pieces are quite thin, and so they are going to be flexible. If you don't want that, make your pieces thicker, but then the translucency of the piece is going to be impacted by that, so just keep that in mind when you're working. Okay, and I've got a buffing wheel attached to my Dremel 3000, and I'm going to buff. You can also rub these really fast against a piece of denim or any old clean rag. Now this makes a bit of noise, so please be careful if you've got headphones on. Okay, now I've only done one side and I want to do both, but I hope that you can see what a beautiful finish that is given. Nice and glossy. And then we'll compare it to this one, which has the Renaissance wax. It's got a really beautiful glossy shine to it. Okay, I'll repeat with the back of this one and this one as well, and then we can assemble. Okay, and there we go, they've got a beautiful shine. Okay, now we're ready to assemble. So I've just got some jump rings here. Grab my other ply, there we go. Just open up your jump ring, pop it through your piece, pop your ear wire on, and snap that closed. Easy. Repeat with the other one. And there we go. That's just about it. Really easy, really effective, and you wouldn't actually believe that it's been made from scraps in the end. It turned out really well. So, if you enjoyed the tutorial, please do let me know in the comments below, and if you would like to support the channel, please do consider becoming a member on YouTube or a patron on Patreon, whichever one you prefer. There is a link to Patreon in the description below, and there is a join button for the YouTube membership just below this video. If you would like to support a different way, I do sell a whole bunch of polymer clay related tools and supplies on my Etsy store. Most of them are handmade. checking that out would be super appreciated. And also commenting and liking on the video helps this channel a lot and is greatly appreciated as well. So if you can do that, that would be absolutely wonderful. And yeah, that basically brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.